Hello everyone and welcome back to Dearsley. In this video I'm going to run a normal full day of goods operations. Before I start, however, after working my trains for a while, I have made some amendments to my original waybill design. I found them too restrictive. I thought this might be the case after reading Ian Rice's book. I mentioned this in my last operating video. This is the old waybill, and the problem with this is having the departure and the arrival locations printed permanently on the waybill. You would have to set up more than one waybill per wagon, which would be much too cumbersome in operation. I similarly found allocating the general purpose wagon to handle just one type of goods would lead to an unnecessary increase in wagon stock. In the new waybill design, I have left the arrival and departure locations blank and have extended the possible usage of some of my wagons to make them more versatile. I can now sensibly have one waybill per wagon as I originally planned. When operating my goods trains, I keep the maximum length of each train to 11 wagons, including the guards van. This is governed by the length of my sidings and by my goods arrival or platform runaround track. Anyway, let's start the day. A normal Monday morning at Dearsley. It is 4 AM and Reg is busy warming up the shunting loco and completing his routine daily checks. While in the warmth of the goods office, the staff are busy preparing for the day ahead. There are 3 goods trains due at Dearsley, which will keep the shunter busy. So, let's get started. The first part of the operation for each day is to set up all the goods trains that will run through Dearsley. I went through this in some detail in my goods operation video part 1. Since then, however, I have made up 2 new cards. The first is to indicate in which fiddle yard siding the train will be found, and the second is a time card indicating the arrival time at Dearsley. These 2 cards, together with the loco card, goes in front of the waybills and are placed in the pigeonhole boxes on the front of my layout with the arrival time clearly visible. On the prototype railway, passenger and goods services run to a working timetable. This is my working timetable, and with it and my waybills and cards in place, I am able to operate the railway for a working day. Reg is ready for his morning shunting. The first goods train arriving is not due until 5:15. This train will be bringing early morning deliveries for Dearsley, Holt and Sheringham, together with any empty wagons. It will return to King's Lynn with any loaded and empty wagons according to their waybills. Both the wagons alongside the goods platform were loaded yesterday evening. The shunter will hook up to the box van, which is loaded with general goods for King's Lynn. The other van, a fruit van, is loaded with general goods destined for Norwich. In the nearer siding stand 3 empty open wagons and a ventilated fruit van. The 3 open wagons are returns for King's Lynn. The fruit vans are normally stored at Dearsley. Again, this information is recorded on their waybills. Reg will make up the King's Lynn return train ready for the 5:15 arrival. The fruit van is attached and will be uncoupled before leaving the siding. The The return train for King's Lynn is now ready and will be moved to the Bridge End sidings to await the 5:15. Dead on time, the King's Lynn train arrives at Dearsley. This is a short train. There is just one loaded general purpose wagon and an empty mineral wagon for Dearsley and an empty fish van for Sheringham. The train crosses onto the goods receiving line and will pull forward and uncouple. The loco will then draw onto the station head shunt, where it will remain until the return train is ready. The shunter now backs the return train onto the guards van. One of my shunting rules is that shunting operations are carried out with a minimum of moves, and that the goods arrival line, which is also the station run-round loop, must be cleared as soon as possible. With this in mind, Reg will leave all the wagons coupled. All the arriving wagons are now shunted onto the long goods siding and uncoupled. The departing wagons, complete with the guards van, are then shunted back onto the run-round loop and uncoupled. The departing train is now ready for its loco, which will run down the platform line to couple with the train. At 6 o'clock, the train departs with goods and empties for King's Lynn, and the shunter is now free to process the incoming wagons. The loaded ones to the platform sidings and the empties to the storage siding. You may have noticed that I said the incoming train has one loaded van and one empty wagon for Dearsley, and an empty fish van for Sheringham. You can see quite clearly there is an extra goods van that I did not mention. The reason for this is down to the way I decided to mount my couplings. I only have a hook at one end of each wagon. To enable shunting, the train must be orientated so that the coupling hooks are all facing away from the buffers in the sidings. However, with the train orientated for shunting, there is no hook on the wagon end next to the loco, and if you recall, I do not fit Spratt and Winkle hooks on my locos. I therefore need one wagon per train to have a hook at each end. This wagon is vital, as it is the only way the loco can be connected to a train. At the moment I only have one wagon like this, so I'm using it on all my goods trains, but I will be making a few more for the future. At Dearsley, not all my sidings face the same way. The coal yard sidings and the bridge end sidings are the opposite way round, requiring trains to be set up with wagons facing in the opposite direction. So when the train leaves Dearsley, there will be no hook on the lead wagon, so again a double hooked wagon will be required to connect the loco. This is not complicated in practice, and it can be avoided if you wish by attaching a hook to each end of your wagons. Once the return train to King's Lynn has left, Reg can sort out the newly arrived wagons. I have removed the double hooked wagon for the next train. As I said, this is a temporary move until I can make up more double hooked wagons. The two empty wagons have been shunted onto the storage siding, and the loaded box van is being eased along the goods platform for unloading. The waybills in Dearsley's pigeonholes display the status of each wagon visible on the layout. The waybill for the box wagon we have just seen is now filed in the loading-unloading pigeonhole. There is a wagon in the loaded pigeonhole that is waiting for a Norwich train. You can see it abbreviated to NW. The next train is destined for Norwich, so the shunter picks up the loaded wagon. There are no empty wagons this time, so Reg makes his way to the bridge end sidings to await the next train. Again, dead on time, the 10:45 mixed goods arrives from King's Lynn loaded with imports and general goods for Norwich. As before, the loco uncouples and the crew are off to see Mavis in the ticket office for a cup of tea. Reg starts his shunting manoeuvre by coupling up to the train, bringing the loaded wagon together with the guards van. The guards van needs to be at the far end of the train. Reg will take two shunts to sort the train out. First he will shunt the whole train into the long goods siding. Here he will uncouple the guards van and return to the goods arrival, where he will leave the box and guards vans. Secondly, he will return and collect the remainder of the train. This will be shunted onto the two waiting wagons on the arrival track. Done. With the crew back in their cab, the Class 4F runs down the platform to head up the train. At 11:45 the signal box gives the green light and the train pulls away for Norwich. With the morning shift completed, Reg finishes his duties as he brings the loco along the goods platform, hands in his timesheet and clocks off. Stan takes over the shunting duties from Reg. As we go into the afternoon, we need to know how many empty wagons will be needed at Dearsley for tomorrow's departing trains. Again, dice throws are used to add a natural randomness to the demand. I will be making up chance cards, like Monopoly, to add further randomness to proceedings, but this will come in the future. I have detailed the procedure in my operating manual. I will throw the dice 3 times, making up trains for Dearsley's goods out for Kings Lynn, Norwich, and Cromer. As these wagons will be needed later for loading, I made note in the goods out register. Today is Monday and we are currently in winter, so I will be throwing just the red and yellow dice. This is the Dearsley goods out register, and I'll throw the first dice for Kings Lynn. It gives me a red 5 and a yellow 2, which works out at being no vans actually. 5 or 6 is no vans needed for Kings Lynn, and 2 and just 1 wagon for Kings Lynn on the yellow dice. So all I need to mark under the winter column here for Monday is just 1 produced wagon needed for Kings Lynn and no goods out. Norwich, a 4 and a 5, so a red 4 is 2 vans, so that's 2 vans for Norwich, and wagons of 5 is no wagons. And finally for Cromer, that's Sheringham and Holt, a 6 and a 5. A 6 is no vans, and a 5 is no wagons. So that's not too bad actually, considering I need to buy some more wagons to operate this thing properly. It means that for tomorrow, Tuesday, I only have to get together 2 box fans and 1 open wagon. With the wagon sorted out for tomorrow, Stan can take the shunter to the bridge siding to await the 14:15 from Norwich.
The train standing at platform 1 is the express service to Grantham, calling at Kings Lynn, Boston and Grantham.
loco has uncoupled as before and waits in the station head shunt. Mavis is putting the kettle on. The train is en route for King's Lynn and its make-up is a little more complex than before. From the waybills, which are in the order of the wagons, we can see there are 2 empty wagons being returned to King's Lynn, 3 loaded wagons for King's Lynn, 1 loaded box van for Sheringham, and 1 loaded box van for Dearsley. These 2 box vans need to be shunted off the train before it departs. A tip I got from watching American railroaders is that the most efficient way of shunting wagons is to start by making the cuts at the furthest point from the shunting loco. In this case, at the box van for Sheringham. The shunter now returns to make the second cut for the Dearsley box van. Stan is now moving these wagons further up the siding to bring in the train to position the guards van. We saw this move earlier. With the departing train now complete, the loco can return and couple up to take the train to King's Lynn. There is time now to sort the yard before the fish train arrives from Cromer and Sheringham. The working day is nearly over. As we can see from my pigeonholes, there is one more train to come in, which is the Sheringham train, and it's due in at 17:15. When this arrives, I will take the train cards out and you will see I have a wagons available card now showing up across my pigeonholes. What happens is when I make the trains up, I stand them in front of these wagons available because they're committed to a train. But when I get down to that card, any cards behind it are available for making up into new trains. It's getting late and most of tomorrow's goods out have now arrived. The fish train for King's Lynn will arrive soon, and there is just one chance to get any extra wagons that may be needed for tomorrow from King's Lynn. We can see from the goods out register that we will be needing 1 open wagon for Sugarbeet for King's Lynn and 2 general goods box vans for Norwich. These need to be loaded this evening for tomorrow's deliveries. Stan reports the situation in the yard. On the goods platform is the fan wived that arrived full at 5:15 this morning. It has been unloaded and is now empty, so we have 1 general goods van available. In front of this is the newly arrived general goods van loaded for Sheringham and the newly arrived general goods van loaded for Dearsley. There is no time to unload this and reload it for the morning. At the back of the storage siding is a ventilated fruit van used mainly for soft summer fruits. In front of this is the empty 16-ton mineral wagon which was returned from King's Lynn this morning. This one is available for loading. In front of this is an insulated fish van that will be returned to Sheringham later. The goods office can contact King's Lynn to secure the extra wagon needed, but a quick call to Sheringham has come up with an empty wagon at Holt. This will be sent with the fish train and will be here sooner than the King's Lynn option. Now that's all sorted, Stan can move the 2 loaded wagons. The Sheringham wagon will be uncoupled before leaving the siding, leaving the loaded van for Dearsley being transferred to the other platform where unloading can begin. Stan quickly returns for the Sheringham van and couples it to the empty fish van. The fish train is run separately from normal goods. It is loaded with today's fresh catch from Cromer and Sheringham. These insulated vans must get to King's Lynn, where they will form part of an express goods train to London. Later this evening, the fish on these vans will be served in posh city restaurants. The loco quickly uncouples the empty box van and departs for King's Lynn without delay. Stan collects the awaited van and will couple it to the van wide at the goods platform. Both will be loaded for Norwich. Time now to pick up the wagons stored for Sheringham. They will be moved onto the run-round loop to be picked up by the Sheringham loco. With no wagon's return, the Sheringham loco returns light from King's Lynn. Finally, the open 16-ton mineral wagon is taken to the goods station at Dearsley for loading. The day is now at an end. Stan can refuel the Class 8 and clock off. A night shift in the office will oversee the goods loading, ready for Tuesday's trains. Well, there we are. I promised one day I would run a complete daily schedule of goods operations. I have tried to make this video entertaining. I feel I have come a long way in the 4 and a bit years making my railway. There is still much more to do. My early plan was to create a glorified shunting layout, and I think I have achieved this. Now I can think about the passenger services. I hope you liked the video. More goods operation will come in the future. Please subscribe and feel free to comment. Thanks for watching.